Hey there! Welcome to the new episode of Chipp Coffee Co. Is that Chipp Coffee, whatever you're watching this on. Obviously this is on YouTube, and if you're listening to this, we've also started a podcast. This is the first episode of the podcast. Because, you know, I need more things to do, obviously. So this is going to be a bit of a weird one, like starting to transition into doing podcasts as well. I'm going to carry on filming what I'm filming as well, because I think sometimes it's quite good to have a visual, but a lot of people like me like to listen to podcasts whilst they're doing several million other things. So we thought, why not start doing this as a podcast as well? In the terms of podcasting, there's a load of stuff that I want to do. There's a load of people that I want to sort of talk to, interview-wise, quite a few coffee professionals and even people outside of the coffee industry as well, because I think that'll be really interesting to talk to them. Probably more in terms of business, but also just to get their viewpoint on things, because I think it's also quite interesting talking to those types of people. There's also going to be some podcasts where I'll be repurposing some of my old YouTube videos, because I think there's a lot of value and information in some of those older videos where, you know, they're talking to like Mike Riley from, he's the head of Falcon Specialty and also runs the UK Q grading courses. We've had chats with Vinny from Mina Soul, and hopefully we'll chat to Vinny again at some point, but I think that episode from YouTube will be really good also as a podcast. So anyway, moving on and getting into this. So today's sort of first podcast episode / just another YouTube video. We're going to be talking about something I've had a few requests for from people in person, which is my origin story. When I say origin story, I'm not talking about like when I've been to Brazil or something, because I've not actually been to Origin yet. I would like to one day, fingers crossed, me and Matt from Fortitude, we should be going to Brazil next year, fingers crossed, but we'll see if that comes through. But no, this is my origin story of how I got into coffee and how I've ended up where I am now. So diving straight into this, I've been in the hospitality industry since I was like 13. I started as a waiter in the local village pub, just sort of running food, being a waiter as you do in a local pub. But I was doing that. I was doing like 2 to 3 shifts a week there, working on weekends. I always worked Christmas and New Year, and that's how I saved up enough money to start my very, very, very first business, which was horrendous. I'm not going to tell you what it's called because it's laughable. But I started my very first business from some money that I'd saved from that when I was like 15. Obviously at that age I had a great idea of like brand and what I wanted to do with it, but no idea how a fucking business run. So that all just ended very quickly. But I learned some amazing things in that sort of side of hospitality. Later on in the years I'd worked in another bar, and then I ended up in a restaurant in Leeds City Centre. And this is where I like really got into bartending, and I sort of learned about cocktails, I learned about wine and spirits, and I got really, really enthused about spirits and cocktails and mixology. And it was a sort of at that point where I had a realisation that I'm really fascinated by flavours. And this is something from like a bit of a young age. I'd always been really into cooking, baking, doing anything I could, like creating new flavours, especially through like cooking food for the family, which seems like, oh yeah, you love cooking, but it's not. It's the ability to create new flavours from different things. I just found that fascinating. I always have. And that's when I really got into mixology, doing cocktails. I entered a few cocktail competitions. And it was a really great restaurant. I had an amazing manager above me. Shout out to Ben if you ever listen to this. And he really pushed me to sort of sort my shit out, because being an 18-year-old bartender, you sort of living the party life as well a lot. But he pushed me to really sort my shit out, and I did. And that's also when I discovered that I was quite good at coffee. I like making coffee and stuff, and we had an Italian coffee supplier to the restaurant. And through various different things, I think they held like a supplier coffee competition for the company or something, who could make the most coffees and latte art and all that stuff. I think we're talking like 2012, maybe 2013 when this was happening, so quite a while back. And I did pretty well at it, and that's when I really got into coffee, and I was offered a job with this coffee company down in London. So I took it, I moved down to London, and I started working as a barista trainer and account manager for this Italian coffee company in London, which was utterly amazing. Like, I wasn't quite into the specialty realm then, because I think specialty was still emerging, it was blossoming quite a lot. But I was heavily into this proper Italian coffee thing, and they were great as a company. They flew me out to Italy a few times, I went to the huge roastery over there. But I was looking after some incredible accounts like Claridge's and the Savoy and Ritz and loads of other mental hotels and stuff. But it was amazing sort of getting there, training these staff, working on new menus and a bit of product development with them for their coffee. I was creating some, like, what was it called? I did like an espresso whip and cappuccino caviar. I think it was Claridge's. They did like a special coffee thing one time, and I made cappuccino caviar for them, which was quite cool. I've got a picture of it way down on my Instagram somewhere. But yeah, I was doing that, and obviously being in London, it was sort of the heart of specialty coffee in the UK. So from then, I'd been seeing all these specialty coffee shops pop up. I'd been drinking in them, and an old colleague of mine, a guy called Henry, had opened up a coffee shop with another guy called Ed, called Gentleman Baristas in Southwark. And we'd sort of worked together in the past. He knew my skills, he knew I was interested in specialty coffee, so he offered me a job there to go work with the Gentleman Baristas in their first shop. So I did. I went and worked with them. It was only short for about 6 months, but I was there solidly, and like a part of that opening team for the Gentleman Baristas there was an incredible team. Anthony, who has now opened Good as Gold in Fitzrovia, an amazing coffee shop in London. If you've been around that area at all, I recommend going to Good as Gold if you've not been there already. And Matilda, Mikey, and everybody who was there, just an incredible crew to be in, and it sort of really established itself as a venue, specialty coffee venue within that side of London. And obviously as a company they've done really well now. I think they're on to like their 5th or 6th shop. They've got a bloody roastery going and all sorts. So it was really good to see how they've sort of expanded and evolved and are doing so well for themselves. But I left the Gentleman Baristas because I was really wanting to get into roasting. Now, coffee roasting is something I'd been dabbling in for probably about 5 or 6 years, because I had an old popcorn machine, like a really shit old popcorn machine, and I was buying shit green coffee online. Like, when you look back on it now, you were thinking it was awesome at the time, but actually, like, no, it was all a bit shit. But yeah, I'd been coffee roasting for ages, and I was really getting into it, and that whole sort of wow moment in specialty coffee, where you go, this is amazing. The sort of flavours that you can get from these coffees is like nothing else. And that super excited me, and it sort of revamped my fascination for flavours and being able to create flavours. And then there was this whole world of like, oh, you can roast coffee to create these new flavours and stuff. So I was reading a shitload, like as much as I could back then, about coffee roasting. I think that's just when Rob Hoos had released his what was it called? Modulating the Flavour Profile of Coffee book, which is really good, and it sort of validated all the thoughts that I'd had about coffee roasting in the first place. So I was just going out there trying to find myself a coffee roasting job, whatever would take me really. And I was lucky enough to be offered a job in York with a coffee roastery up there, York Coffee Emporium, or York Emporium as they're now called. So yeah, I was one of their first roasters that they employed, and that was a fantastic 2-3 years. I can't quite remember. I think it was 3 years. Might have been 2.5. But I had a fantastic time up there. They were a great, like, small-run family company back then, and for me, it was learning the whole sort of basics of coffee roasting, because it's one of those things. You can go in, anybody can be a coffee roaster. You can get the best machine in the world. You can get some half-decent green coffee, and you can put it in. You can turn green coffee brown, and to be honest, it was sort of the basics of coffee roasting back then, using like paper graph pads and stepped gas changes, and it just wasn't very manipulatable on the whole roasting profile side of things. They've definitely changed it all now, because I know Richard and David, who've taken over the roasting side there, they're doing an amazing job with what they're doing. But that's why I really learned the whole basics of coffee roasting. I went on a few coffee roasting courses, and through that I met a gentleman called John Thompson. And John was a good friend of Mike Riley's. Mike Riley, head of Falcon Specialty, also lives in Yorkshire. So I had a fairly good relationship going with Mike back then, still do today. But I remember a point where I was looking to further my skills, get more into the whole chemistry, science and full profile manipulation of coffee roasting, get into green sourcing a little bit more, and Riley sort of told me about this position that might be coming up with John Thompson. So I got in touch with John. Obviously John's a very busy person. He's one of the head judges for Cup of Excellence. He runs a coffee consultancy company in Edinburgh called Coffee Nexus. And after a while, I visited Edinburgh a couple of times, so I was adamant on moving there anyway, because the coffee community and the coffee scene in Edinburgh is utterly incredible. So I had my heart set already on moving to Edinburgh, and then I met with John. He offered me a job to go work at Coffee Nexus part-time. It was like a few days a week, but I just snapped it up, jumped at it, and yeah, I moved to Edinburgh. Just left everything in York, and well, I was living in Leeds, working in York, left everything here, moved up to Edinburgh, and working with John Thompson at Coffee Nexus has been the most incredible few years of my career, because I've learned so much working there as a subcontracted consultant. So I was working there as a coffee consultant, subcontracted for various projects and various clients around the world. But through that also, because it was a part-time consultancy, I also had the opportunity to do a bit of my own sort of independent consultancy stuff for a few coffee places in Edinburgh that John wouldn't necessarily be able to do himself. And there were also a few other independent consultancies that have come up, and it was that really launched my career to where it is now. I don't think I would be quite in the same place I am now if it wasn't for working at Coffee Nexus, and having John's sort of mentorship there as a incredible coffee legend that he is. So yeah, I was doing the coffee consultancy for John, doing some of my own stuff, and whilst I was doing my own consultancy parts, I was in a position where I could sort of create a little hobby project of coffee roasting that I'd been thinking about for a while. So I started that. That was the sort of very first iteration of Chipp Coffee Co as a roasting company. And I literally started it as a really, really small hobby project. I bought one bag of coffee from Falcon. I think it was a natural Costa Rican or something. And just every so often I bought a new bag of coffee from here or there. And it really started snowballing. Like, it went really well, to a point where I had to go, look, do I concentrate on the roasting or the consultancy side? And I really just had to like take a step back and sort out what I was going to do. So I decided to go and stick with the consultancy for a bit longer, which I'm really, really glad I did, because it gave me the opportunity to work with some incredible clients, meet some amazing people in the industry, get some amazing insights into the coffee industry that I wouldn't have done if I'd stayed roasting. And now I'm in a position where I think I've had a lot of different aspects of the coffee industry like coming at me, and I've been able to soak it all up. I've been able to work in different aspects of the coffee industry. I'm still doing some consultancy now. I do a bit coffee sourcing, like green sourcing for Fortitude still. Do some work with Coffee Nexus for a few different clients, and just generally work for John. And I'm also working with Mike Riley, assisting on his Q-grade courses. So there's an amazing amount of different things all coming in at once. But then last year, it was last October, so literally just over a year ago, I think it was a year last week, I moved back to Leeds, my hometown, because I need to get back to friends and family, sort of create a bit of a solid foundation for myself. And I moved back. I started a company called Total Roaster, who, if you've been following my YouTube and general stuff that I do, you'll know about Total Roaster. And Total Roaster is just sort of trundling along in the background, doing its thing. But I've been working on Total Roaster for a couple of years, like planning it and stuff. So I came back, set up Total Roaster, and now that's just doing its thing. But I'd always had the thought of coffee roasting still in the back of my mind. So I think it was June, possibly. I was talking to my brother, Alistair. I was like, look, I'm going to restart Chipp Coffee Co. I'm going to relaunch it as a coffee roasting business. And my brother, Alistair, he's set up a few businesses of his own over the years. Again, another podcast interviewee to talk about, because I think Alistair would be a really interesting person to talk to, because he's also a part of Chipp Coffee Co now. So yeah, Alistair's come on board. We relaunched Chipp Coffee Co at the start of August to do coffee roasting, and we've been roasting coffee and it's been going really well. So that's, yeah, I think that's just a brain fart of all the stuff about Chipp Coffee Co and what this journey has been to get me to this point. So yeah, I think thinking about it now, like after just blurting all that out, I think flavour and creation, like I'm a very creative person anyway, but I think being able to create flavours through cooking, like I absolutely love cooking, I love cocktails, I love wine, and just the whole fascination with flavour, having that sensory exploration has been what has always fascinated me about coffee, about cocktails, cooking, baking. And that's where I want to keep going, because I put a lot of work into product development, especially with Chipp Coffee Co. Do the same for Fortitude when we're doing their green sourcing. There's a lot of sensory skills that go into all of that. Creating flavours from one product and be able to sort of manipulate it to create new flavours. I think one of the quotes from the Rob Hughes book, actually, that I remember is, you can make an apple taste like different varieties of apple, or make an apple taste more caramel, more sharp, more citrusy, or it would be malicky. But what you can't do to an apple is make it taste like an orange. And the same goes for coffee. You can do so many different things with coffee, but what you can't do is change it to something that just isn't there, essentially. Like, you could get a really nice natural Costa Rican and turn that into sort of sherbety, lemon, grapefruit, vanilla, chocolatey flavours, but you couldn't turn that into pumpkin spice latte necessarily, unless you're getting those flavours from the inherent natural product in the first place. And I find that super, super fascinating about green coffee, and that's where a lot of my coffee sourcing skills have come in, especially for the consultancy side. When I'm doing consultancy, especially back in the day, a lot of it was on sourcing. I know Fortitude, I spent a lot of time with Fortitude on their sourcing when they sort of first started, and just how to source properly and where from. You know, you've got to sort of reverse engineer it. So you want to end up with this product, how do we step it back to end up with that? And that's sort of where I want to carry on going, carry on developing. I want to do a lot of work, sensory work with Chipp Coffee Co, sort of do some cuppings, do some tasting events in the future. What else do I want to do? Oh, there's loads of stuff that I want to do. I want to start another little, probably not a podcast, it's probably more for YouTube. Seeing what weird and wonderful products I can create out of coffee. Like, I've got loads of ideas. I want to create a coffee hot sauce and see if we can reverse engineer a clear coffee. I've got some thoughts about it, because if you've ever watched like coffee YouTube stuff, you'll have seen James Hoffman doing all these clear coffee stuff, and I've got an idea how to create one, but I don't know if it's going to work. So I want to try that at some point. But anyway, it's a complete tangent there. So yeah, that's sort of where we are, where I want to go. I think that's more of a personal thing. But I'm so glad that I'm in a position where I'm able to create Chipp Coffee Co and sort of relaunch it as the coffee roasting company it now is, and where it's going to be going. There's a lot that I want to do with it. I'm really excited to create a company that is sort of focused on the right things, because I'm not about putting loads of buzzwords into the company, being handcrafted, artisan, ethically sourced and all that bullshit. Like, it is ethically sourced. We do a lot of ethical sourcing. Sure, it's handcrafted, but most things are, unless you put it through a fucking machine. Buzzwords really annoy me, but I'm not going to get into that. I think I've had a tangent about that on a previous video, and we'll leave it there. But yeah, there's a lot that I want to do with the company, and I'm really excited for the future of the company, because I've got loads of great ideas that I want to do. It would take a lot of investment and a lot of money to get to that point, but we're going to build it slowly and organically, unless somebody just comes in and goes, yeah, he's 300 grand, go wild. But like, awesome, cheers dude. I think the thing I'm most excited about with this company is, obviously I'm thinking far ahead into the future, is to be a great employer. Not necessarily just having a successful company, because I think you need a successful company to be sustainable, obviously, and to be able to employ people, but I'm really excited to one day be an employer, because I want to be a great employer. I'm really excited to sort of help develop people on their professional coffee side of things, but also on the personal level as well, and sort of be the employer that I always wanted to have. If that makes sense. I know that sounds really sad, doesn't it? It makes my other employers sound shit, but they haven't. You've all been good, you've all been lovely people. I've had a great time working with all of you. If you watch this, I'm sorry. Yeah, I think that's where I'm really excited in our sort of missions and values for Chipp Coffee Co, is to be ethical, especially sort of eco and environmentally responsible in what we're doing. Already we're a carbon neutral company, so we're offsetting all our carbon every year, trying to keep that as carbon neutral as possible. Also we are looking to get fully recyclable packaging in the future. It's just very, very expensive to do that right now. It's just not a viable option for us. But we're doing what we can, trying to be eco and ethical and everything. Obviously our sourcing works quite good, because I do all that. Yeah, not blowing my own horn at all. And then yeah, the next step is to keep getting sales in, work with new wholesale partners, and sort of we want to be able to invite wholesale partners to become a part of our Chipp Coffee Co family, like be a part of us, get inside us, not like that. But yeah, sort of yeah, join them to feel like a part of the Chipp Coffee Co brand and be part of our family, because fucking wholesale partners is what is going to make us a successful company. So we need to look after you, and you need to look after us, you know. We'll give you coffee, you say nice things about us, and it'll be great. We'll have a lovely time. So yeah, this is it. I think I've waffled on for nearly 25 minutes going on now. I hope this podcast works. I don't know what the quality is going to be like. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see me waffling and waving my hands about everywhere, because this is what I do. And so remember to comment, like and subscribe. Share it, you know, if you like sharing things. If you think it's good, if you think it's shit and you want to send it to somebody to have a laugh at, just share it, because, you know, any publicity is good publicity, is it? So yes, this is it for now. I hope you have a great day. Let's get booming. Peace. can't reach it anymore because I've got a new tripod and it's too far away. I'm just gonna go. Bye.